criminal and dirty work of overthrowing overseas governments. Among those people that I remember precisely is a man called Roger Winters, who was responsible for managing the invasion of Rwanda by Uganda and grooming people like Rwigema, Kagame, and the rest. I told you a few weeks ago that his office was at 1717 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest in Washington, D.C. And he was given the cover of working on international refugees. But there is no record of any refugee he ever assisted, either to find a tent or a shelter or a bowl of rice to eat in the whole world. His job was to overthrow governments. And he successfully managed the invasion of Rwanda. He successfully managed the disturbance in Darfur. You remember you played a tape here that among the countries they had targeted to destroy was Sudan. And this is the
Yeah.
man who managed the creation of Darfur problem, which had never existed before. So we have a problem, and I would say the problem we as Africans have is a problem of refusing to understand the world we are operating in. Now, you've mentioned how the CIA collaborated with the Boers of South Africa in what befell Nelson Mandela. Yes, there is no difference between the American, the British, the Australian,
Mm-hmm.
the South African whites, whatever. There is now they are using the word the international community. And you ask yourself, if the international community, quote and quote, are you telling me that even my relatives in Chotera are part of this team? Are you telling me that the people of Bugishu or Sebei or Arua are part of this? Are you telling me that the Akambas in Machakos are part of this? Or the Bembas of Zambia are part of this so-called international community? Or are you telling me that we do not belong to the international, the global community on this planet? Only you. Anytime they want to hide, they call themselves the international community. Guys, you have to understand these are phraseologies used to hide snakes and hyenas and the cheetahs, which are going to eat you, or which are eating you actually, because they have already started. So do not be fooled by those phrases. And we are going to go more into some of these so-called um, phrases which they have packaged or they have coated them in sugar, but inside they are bitter.
That reminds me, if we had a chance, that earlier on I had a network issue and I couldn't hear the program. If we have delved into the terminology of foreign investors as well.
That, well, we are still fighting a war of liberation, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Who are our enemies? Who are our oppressors? It is the Western capitalist countries, period. Now, some other countries have joined that camp, including China. And soon India is also going to join that. We have to be on guard to protect ourselves, to protect our African identity, and to defend our continent from foreign exploitation. That is a job which God has assigned to us today because we are custodians of that continent. And if we neglect our job, we are going to lose that continent. Now, you mentioned the word foreign investors. I want to remind my fellow Africans that colonialists did not come with the marching armies as they are doing today with these armies like AFRICOM, foreign legionnaires, etc., etc. No. When they came to colonize Africa or to colonize any country, let me start with Canada. They were called trappers. They came looking for those little mink animals so that they can kill them and skin them, take them to Europe, and make mink coats for the wives and girlfriends of the wealthy and the powerful. It is through these so-called trappers that they set up companies which took over Canada and they killed the indigenous people of Canada. And then the rest is history. You know that. When it came
Yeah.
to our continent, they used these trading companies like the British East African Company, the British South African Company, the Royal Niger Company, the Royal African Company, the North Borneo Chartered Company, the Northwestern Company. All these were companies. And they will tell you that even people like Captain Lugard was an employee of one of these companies. But later on,
Okay.
those companies evolved. They were just like you've seen caterpillars. After a little while, they become a pupa, and before you know it, they're a butterfly. And it looks completely different. That's what these people did. Now when we gained the so-called political independence, all we got was a flag and an African sleeping in the same bedroom where the governor used to sleep. That's why in Uganda, including Kenya, by the way, the president, we call it the state house, the president sleeps in the same house where the governor used to sleep. But nothing has changed. We have black people sitting there carrying out the same job the other guys were doing, but under a little bit of structural change, but the bottom line is still the same. The
True.
exploitation of our countries on a financial basis, you still have Barclays Bank, Standard Bank of South Africa, Northwestern, Northwestern Mutual. All these companies are still there. Helen Court are still there dominating the tea plantations, etc., etc. Now, what we made a mistake about is to allow more foreign companies under the guise of foreign investors. Now, they don't want to use the word uh, foreign trading companies, which they used previously.
Before.
Now they are
Yeah.
using the word foreign investors. And it is nauseating to see some Africans worshipping these phrases and worshipping these hyenas coming flocking into Africa by the boatload as investors. I remember not too long ago watching that I can't find a nice word to use about her. You see the so-called Prime Minister of Uganda went by helicopter to Sango area, Kanabulemu area, saying that they are going to remove the population because foreign investors are coming to plant palm trees because we need palm trees to produce soap. There is a shortage of soap. Now, first of all, you know very well palm trees are going to take a long time to grow and produce.
Mm.
Two, why do you have to kick out these people from their
Yeah.
ancestral land? Because a foreign investor is coming. Who is more
Mm.
important? This foreign bastard coming out of nowhere? And after all, you tell us that now we are independent. The people of this country, of this village, own this country. This is theirs. They are supposed to
Mm.
be supreme. And for you, as a so called leader, your job is to protect,
Mm.
promote, defend these people, the indigenous people. But you have twisted this dictum and you think that your job is to protect, defend, and promote foreign hyenas at the
Mm.
expense of even killing the indigenous people. To me, that is unacceptable. And on that note, I am willing to die in the defense of these indigenous people because they are the ones who are the supreme owners of this country. But many of our leaders don't see it that way. And unfortunately,
Mm.
some of these people who are purporting to be opposing, they don't see it that way. They are tolerating
Yeah.
nonsense. It is a shame.
I.
We
Mm.
Africans have to wake up and learn what is most important. Our people are the
Mm.
most important. Defending the lives of our indigenous people is the most important obligation you bear, no matter which position you occupy.
Mm. And thank you so much for saying that, Mr. Chintu, because I think within our era, uh, maybe this is owed to, not even maybe, this is owed to the propaganda that has been played out globally. It's where many of us have been led to believe when we think of the term investors are coming, foreign investors, there is still this colonial concept that investors coming into the nation will help local people, regardless of the repercussions that local people serve due to the investors coming. The situation has been turned on its head, where local investors are seen. One of the things Museveni prides himself on is that he opened up the nation's economy from Idi Amin's regime closing it off. That now people are interested to come and invest in Uganda. We're meant to believe that these are good things. But yet again, these are some of the things that have enabled neocolonialism to continue, have turned leaders into puppets and not being able to serve national interests, which is the indigenous people's interests. So it is, the onus is really on us, Nzegwe Muno, and everyone to really understand the relationship between us and foreign powers until we do at least that part for ourselves, because these leaders are not going to help us or be there for us. Because if a leader can come and decide to move people from their ancestral land to grow one type of crop on the land that's going to even deplete that land for over that long period of time, and she does this because she gets a paycheck and gets to sit in a jet. It is saddening where we still are as African people, because we still have clowns and puppets running the show. It's about time that us, the people, actually became the voice of our nations. But with that being said, I want us to take a short break. And when we come back, that will be our last segment. I think everything that
Now,
we've been speaking of thus far.
Desire, before we get into the break, let me make this
Mm.
very clear. Museveni
Please.
currently is being praised by the Americans for
Mm.
his, and I'm quoting them, for his wonderful economic policies, which
Mm. Mm.
allow
Mm.
75% tax exemption on
Mm.
investment, foreign investment in Uganda. Two, now they will not tax 75% of the value of the investment you are bringing in. Two, they allow you to, Museveni is allowing foreign investors to come in and invest in Uganda, owning 100% of the investment. In other words, if they wanted to come to a place like, let's say, uh, Iganga, and they are going to do some business there, they can own the company called the um, Iganga Mining Company or Iganga Manufacturing Company for underwears. They can own that company 100%. Two, they are allowed to repatriate 100% of the profits. 100% of the profits. In other words, they are using that location, Iganga, to bring in a factory or a mining company or whatever business they are doing, and they can own it. In other words, the guy sitting in New York or Massachusetts or Texas owns this company 100%. And when he makes a profit, in other words, whatever he's producing, either he is going to sell it to the Ugandans or he's going to export it. It doesn't matter the product and how much. All the profits are going to be taken out of Uganda 100%. What does Uganda have
Mm.
left? The trash,
And
the trash that they will throw in the garbage pit. That's all Uganda is going to have. And most
mm,
likely, Uganda may not even get employment opportunities because this person who owns the company from Texas or wherever or China, he will bring his own people as he feels like. Because he can say, well, I could hire Kintu, but Kintu is kind of ignorant. He can't handle my machines. Okay, he's free. Then he brings in these foreigners. So they are using this location as an extension of employment opportunities for their overseas unemployed and underemployed population, while our people cannot even get jobs. And our government cannot even get revenue through taxation because they are allowed to repatriate. They are given a tax
everything.
exemption. They are allowed to repatriate all the profits they have made. And that's what I say. They are raping us open and leaving us dirty and bleeding.
Mm. And just to mention that this is not only Museveni, the whole government or the government of Uganda that exists has allowed just the political system that exists and its processes. Nothing is going to change if Museveni leaves power as long as the leader who is put in place supports the current foreign policies that exist economically. We will remain in the same situation where we can never gain. And what's funny, the only funds to be made out of that deal is a 35% cut, which I think then State House gives to itself. But with that being said, I would like for us to take a short break. When we come back, I think we've built enough background to start delving into the idea of AFRICOM and what is happening militarily on the
Gamba senior akomewo. Mugambe gamba senior muweereza linki empya akomewo. Babadde batukutudde. Babadde batukutudde.
Why do we need the federal system of governance in Uganda? And what is federalism? Federal is a system of governance. It's not about getting rid of the central government. It's not about party politics. It's not about multi-partisan or absence of it. It's not about religious differences. It's not about tribalism. It is not for the benefit of Buganda alone. It's not about monarchism. It's not about land or dispossessing people from land. It is not about supremacy of one region over another or others. It's about helping the central government to provide services more efficiently and provide more effective development to the people. It's about sharing power and responsibilities between the central government and regional governments. Federalism is about providing more prosperity, more wealth, more feeling of belonging and participation in governance by marginalized and non-marginalized people. The federal system of government minimizes possibilities war against developed regions of the country can catch up through the system of equalization grants and affirmative action programs. This ensures that the regions with greater income and development contribute a percentage of their earnings to the developed areas which may be less developed. It should be noted that federalism, though different from decentralization, does not contradict or exclude decentralization. The two systems can and should coexist and complement each other at the regional level. Advocating federal does not mean or seek to get rid of decentralization from regional tier. Nor does it mean getting rid of district MPs, LC leaders, or other regional government officials. To learn more about federalism, register and join UFCC at www.ufcc.uk.
Welcome back from that short break. We would like to apologize. We've had some technical difficulties as network has not been so good. It has been intercepted and interrupted, but we're back on live. So hopefully everyone can now hear us, hear from us, and is able to receive what we're saying on all social media platforms and the radio as well. Hopefully we're back on track. And right before we left, I think we were going into a short break and then we were coming back to talk about what is happening now with the military arm that has been built by American forces on the African continent, in which Museveni and his goons plays a huge role, Kagame plays a huge role as well, and it's been cultivated over years and placed on the African continent, and what that means for our liberty in the future. How can we start to actually envision ourselves, freeing ourselves from Western imperialism or Western dominance? But before we start that, I'd like the producer to please play 2 videos back to back that we're going to watch. One is a video of an American militant talking to another American official about why AFRICOM exists, and another one is them basically explaining why they had to leave the United States and come all the way to Africa just to set themselves up. Hopefully we have built up enough background for us to start to see the contradictions that are in what is going